Hey, what's going on, my fellow idiots? Welcome back to Idiot Proof Cooking. So, I haven't made bread in a while. Like, the last video where I used bread, I used store-bought bread. So, I figured it's about time I did a bread making episode. It's been too long. Now, when brainstorming ideas on what to make, I tossed around a bunch of ideas, but ultimately I decided this week to make challah because, you know what, despite having to braid it, it's really not that complicated. So I wanted to show you how to make it. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, so let's get into making this challah. I'm going to be using a recipe from King Arthur flour. And in order to make it easier, I'm going to be using a stand mixer to mix all of this. So go get your stand mixer and start off with 3/4 of a cup of warm water. I had mine heated to 110 degrees Fahrenheit and add in 4 teaspoons of instant yeast. Give it a quick mix together and then just set it aside for, like 5-10 minutes or so. Once you've done that, go get yourself 4 1/4 cups of bread flour and pour it into the bowl of your stand mixer. Make sure it's all in there. And then we're going to add in 1 1/2 teaspoons of kosher salt. Pour that in with the flour, and then after about 5 or 10 minutes, go get your watery yeasty mixture, and again, pour it into the bowl of your stand mixer. Once that's in, go get yourself 6 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and into the bowl of the stand mixer it goes. And then we're going to add in 2 large eggs plus 1 additional egg yolk. So pour that in, and the egg white from that 3rd egg, save it because we'll use it later. And then we're going to add in 3 tablespoons of honey. Now I'm using raw unpasteurized honey because that's all I had in my cupboard, but you can use that or just regular old honey. Either would work fine. So pour that into the bowl of your stand mixer and then go get the dough hook for your stand mixer, drop the head, and mix this together for about 5 to 6 minutes. Now you might have to get a spatula and scrape down along the sides of the bowl depending on the stand mixer you're using. But yeah, mix this together for 5 or 6 minutes, and at the end of it you should have a really supple and tacky dough. As you can see here, it's pretty sticky, but that's to be expected, so don't get discouraged. So just clean off the dough from the dough hook, and there we go. That's what your dough should look like. Like I said, it's pretty tacky at this point in time, but that's to be expected. So let's get into flouring our work surface, and then we're just going to scrape the dough out of the stand mixer bowl because we're just going to knead it into a ball for the next 30 seconds or so. We don't want to really dry this dough out too much, so we're just putting the flour down so that it doesn't stick, the dough doesn't stick to our hands. It's really to just make it a little bit more workable. So just knead it in the flour for 30 seconds and form it into a nice ball, and then go get yourself a large mixing bowl and put a little bit of oil or cooking spray in there, and then drop your dough ball into it. Give it a quick swirl around so it gets covered in oil. You don't want it sticking to the sides of the bowl after all. Then cover it in plastic wrap and stick it in a warm, dry spot for the next 1.5 to 2 hours for it to rise. Now, it isn't going to double in size. You're going to get about 60-70% increase, but you're not looking for a complete double in size, as you can see here. And that's to be expected. So, don't worry if it doesn't double in size. It's not supposed to. So just gently deflate your dough and then flour your work surface, and we're going to turn the dough out and start cutting it up. Now, you have to make a decision on how intricate you want your challah to be. I am by no means a braiding expert, so I am making a 3-braid challah. You'll find other people who will make a 4, 5, 6, 8 braid challah, but this is idiot proof cooking and I am not attempting that big of a braid. So we're just going to divide the dough up into 3 equal sized pieces, and then we're going to start rolling them out into actual rolls. So take one of the 3 pieces of the dough, and then I'm just going to roll it with my hands into a roll shape, and then I'm just going to keep rolling it out with my hands until it's about 12 to 18 inches long. Now, what you might find is that as you're rolling out the dough, it's going to fight you and shrink. And if that happens, you've got to let the glutens relax a little bit. So just roll the dough out into, rolls, and then just cover it with plastic wrap or a tea towel and let the glutens relax for 30 minutes, and then get back to rolling them until you get them to 12 to 18 inches long, like I've done here. Once you have rolled out your dough, it's time to start braiding it. So take all 3 pieces of dough at one end and pinch them together like I'm doing here. And then it's time to start braiding these. So very simply, take the left outside piece of dough and stick it in between the middle piece and the right piece. Then you're going to take the right outside piece and stick it in between the middle and the left side one, and then the left into the middle again, then the right into the middle again, and then the left into the middle again, and then the right into the middle again. And just that, you just keep repeating that, left into the middle, right into the middle, and then once you get down to the end of it, you're going to pinch the end of it together, make sure it's nice and sealed, and there you go, a 3-braid challah, not nearly as hard as you thought it would be. So go get yourself a baking sheet, line it with some parchment paper, and carefully move the challah on top of it, and then we're going to cover it again in plastic wrap and rise it for a second time. So cover it in plastic wrap, then go stick it in a warm, dry spot and let it rise for the next hour to hour and a half until it gets nice and puffy. As you can see here, it is clearly risen quite nicely. Now, inspecting the dough before we bake it, you can see the one end is slightly thicker than the other, and that's just because of how I braided it, but no matter, it's going to turn out really nicely. So now would be the opportune time to go preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, because all we have left to do is give it an egg wash, and there is the egg white from that third egg I told you to keep. So use 1 egg white and then pour in a tablespoon of water, mix it together, and then brush this dough all over head to toe in your egg wash. And then the final step before baking this is throw some sesame seeds on top. Now, this is optional, you don't have to throw the sesame seeds on, but if you like the taste of sesame seeds on your bread, then I would highly recommend doing it. Once that's done, go stick this in your oven, preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and bake it for 25 to 30 minutes. Now you'll know it's done, one, because it's going to come out golden brown and puffy looking and just amazingly delicious looking like that. Oh, look at that thing. But the second way you can tell that it's done is if you stick an instant read thermometer in it, the internal temperature should read 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I'm just going to transfer this very carefully onto my wire rack and let it cool down for the next couple of hours. But let's have a quick look at it here. As you can see, Rose has got a spatula and trying to hit the bread. What a little pest. But look at that loaf of bread. It is gorgeous. So let's let this cool down before we cut into it. Yeah, let it cool down for a couple of hours first. Alrighty, after 2 hours, it's time to get into this. I just want to give you another shot of it. Look at that gorgeous just braid on it and the gorgeous color and the sesame seeds all over it. Man, it smells so good and it just looks so good too. So let's get into taste testing this. So let's cut it in half and I'll give you a shot of the inside of the loaf. Look at that, it's nice and fluffy. Oh man, this turned out perfectly. Alright, so to taste test this. Now, challah is a sweet bread. You know, there is honey in it after all. So it is a great bread to use for like French toast. But I don't have time to film making French toast as well. So I'm just going to throw some butter on top of it and try it out that way. Because it smells amazing and I just want to dig into trying this. Alright, so let's rip a little piece off here and give it a try. And with the first bite, yeah, it is so good. It has got the right amount of sweetness and it's just nice and fluffy and delicious. Fresh bread is so good, right? So I'll give one more bite here and I can hear Rose coming. I know she wants to try a bite of it here. Here we go. All right, and Rose, let me know what you think about it. And oh, she took the entire thing. Can I have it back at least? Well, there's my answer. Well, I guess that's the end of the episode, guys. I hope you like what you saw here today. If you did, drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking. We'll see you again soon.